What would you think if your Disney cruise vacation suddenly turned into a scene of federal agents escorting staff off the ship in handcuffs? That is exactly what passengers on the Disney Magic say they witnessed, and the details behind it are far more disturbing than most people realize. Between April 23rd and April 27th, U.S. Customs and Border Protection carried out an operation across multiple cruise ships in San Diego. 8 ships were boarded, 28 crew members were interviewed, and according to federal officials, 27 of them were tied to child sexual exploitation material in some way. In this video, we're breaking down what happened on the Disney ship, what the federal investigators actually said, and why this story raises bigger questions about cruise ship safety, oversight, and the way shocking headlines travel online. Here's the part that made the story explode. Passengers aboard the Disney Magic reportedly watched as several crew members were escorted off the ship by federal officers. One passenger, Dharmi Mehta, even captured video of the arrests. According to reporting from local and national outlets, at least 4 officers were seen detaining multiple Disney cruise employees. The footage spread quickly, not just because it was unexpected, but because it collided with the image people usually have of Disney cruises: family-friendly, polished, and tightly controlled. Disney Cruise Line later said it has a zero-tolerance policy for this kind of behavior, and that it cooperated fully with law enforcement. The company also said that while most of the individuals were not directly employed by Disney Cruise Line, anyone who was connected to the company was no longer with it. That statement matters, because it tells you 2 things at once. First, Disney moved fast to distance itself from the incident. Second, the cruise environment is more complicated than people think. On a ship, staff can come from multiple countries, multiple contractors, and multiple agencies, all operating inside one floating workplace. If you're getting value from this breakdown, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive when a major story like this breaks. Now, let's talk about the federal operation itself. Customs and Border Protection said it boarded 8 cruise ships in San Diego during that 4-day window. Officers interviewed 28 crew members. Of those, 27 were found to have been involved in either receiving, possessing, transporting, distributing, or viewing child sexual exploitation material or child pornography, as federal officials described it. The numbers are striking, not because they represent a random rumor, but because they come from an official agency statement. This wasn't internet speculation. It was a law enforcement action tied to a broader investigation. Federal officials said the workers included 26 people from the Philippines, 1 from Portugal, and 1 from Indonesia. CBP also said visas were canceled and the individuals were returned to their countries of citizenship. One important detail here is what was not publicly disclosed. The agency did not name the suspects. It also did not immediately say whether formal charges have been filed in every case. That means the public got the broad outline of the operation, but not every legal step that may follow. So when you hear people say, it was all just arrests, that's oversimplifying it. What was confirmed is that investigators identified serious concerns, removed the people involved from the ships, canceled their visas, and sent them back. What remains less clear, at least from the public statements, is the full legal aftermath. And that uncertainty is part of why the story stuck. There's the shock of the arrest itself, but there's also the question underneath it. How does something like this happen on a ship built around entertainment, trust, and constant movement? Cruise ships are unusual places. They're not just vacations. They're temporary cities with international staff, shifting jurisdictions, limited transparency, and a non-stop flow of passengers and workers. That creates a difficult environment for vetting and monitoring. A cruise line can have strict rules on paper, but enforcing those rules across dozens of nationalities, third-party contractors, and rotating schedules is a different challenge entirely. It also explains why these cases often surface through coordinated law enforcement efforts rather than through routine internal checks. Investigators can look at digital records, border information, travel patterns, and visa data in ways the average passenger never sees. For families, the bigger takeaway is not just what happened on one ship. It's the broader reality that a cruise line's branding does not guarantee a risk-free environment. A Disney ship may feel especially safe because of the name on the funnel, but the real world still follows the ship wherever it goes. That's why this story hit a nerve. It wasn't only about a scandal. It was about trust. Parents trust these companies with their vacation, their kids, and their sense of security. When that trust gets shaken, people remember it for a long time. There's another layer to this, and it has to do with the way cruise-related stories compete for attention online. Every so often, an unrelated, highly dramatic cruise headline starts circulating around the internet and pulls everyone's focus in a different direction. You may have seen people talking about a supposed hantavirus cruise ship story, but I want to be careful here. I couldn't verify that claim from the reliable reporting tied to this case, so I'm not treating it as established fact. Still, the pattern is familiar. A sensational story spreads fast. A documented investigation gets buried under noise. And suddenly, the public is spending more energy chasing the flashiest version of events than the one that has actual official confirmation. Now, does that mean someone is definitely coordinating distractions? Not necessarily. Sometimes the news cycle is just chaotic. Sometimes audiences click on the weirdest headline first. But I think it's fair to say that the way certain stories get amplified can make it harder for serious reporting to stay in view. That matters here, because the Disney Cruise Line story is not a rumor, and it's not some vague online theory. It involved federal agents, documented detention, official statements, and public video from passengers. In other words, this is the story that deserves focus. The first takeaway is simple. This was an official federal operation, not internet gossip. The second is that 27 of 28 interviewed crew members were found by CBP to have been involved with child sexual exploitation material in some form. The third is that Disney said it cooperated and removed any connected employees from the company. The fourth is that cruise ships are international workplaces, which makes oversight more complicated than most passengers assume. And the final point is this. When viral side stories start taking over the conversation, it becomes even more important to separate verified facts from online noise. Now I want to hear from you. After hearing this, do you think cruise lines should be doing more to screen and monitor staff? Or do you think the system is already tighter than most people realize? If this video gave you a clearer picture of what happened, please like the video, subscribe for more sharp breakdowns like this, and turn on notifications so you catch the next one. Next up, we can dig into how cruise ship security actually works behind the scenes, and what passengers should know before they ever step on board.